If you are taking the digital SAT soon, I am here to give you some awesome tips. Today we're going to talk about 3 digital SAT reading question types that everyone is missing. Maybe not everyone, but a lot of people. My name is Brooke. I've been coaching the SAT and the ACT for almost 2 decades. I've gotten a perfect score, not on this version of the SAT because it hasn't even been released in the United States, but on a previous version of the SAT. I've coached students to perfect scores on the last paper version of the SAT, and hopefully we'll get some digital SAT perfect scores here soon. I have created a full online digital prep course for the digital SAT, so if you want to check that out, you can head to SupertutorTV.com. We're also looking for beta testers just in the next couple of weeks here in January. SupertutorTV.com/beta is where you can sign up for that, and we're on TikTok. We're on Facebook, we're on that thing that used to be called Twitter. I am also teaching a live 6-week digital SAT intensive that starts January 31st on Wednesdays from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific, 7 to 9 Eastern. I would love to have you in my class. If you want to up your skills on the digital SAT, join me. You can sign up at supertutortv.com/intensive, I think. Yeah, that works. Yep, January 31st, be there. We have a blog that goes with this video. If watching is painful and you just want to get to what are the 3 questions because you want to see if you can do them, you can head to our blog. The link is going to be in the description. Let's do this. The first kind of question that everyone is missing, the weird semicolon question. And this is a question type. I didn't pull this question directly from a blue book, so I have no spoiler alert for this question. I wrote it based on the type of error that I see over and over again on the digital SAT that a lot of students roll in. They totally facepalm into this. Kenzaburo Oi once held that Japanese literature had become overly influenced by the work of author Haruki Murakami, and some felt Oi was one of Murakami's harshest critics. When Murakami's The Wind-Up Bird Chronicle was awarded the Yomiuri Literary Prize, Oi accepted an invitation to present Murakami with the award. However, after the awards ceremony, Oi, when speaking to the press, slowly began to acknowledge Murakami's talent and legacy. So now here's the challenge. Conventional wisdom states that, when we want to bridge 2 independent clauses with however, we do semicolon, however, comma. And a lot of students pick that on however questions on the SAT. But here's a fun factoid of grammar that many students don't know. However can come at the end of a phrase and function as if it were at the beginning. Okay? So that's the rule. I'm going to go back to this question, then I'll show you another example really quickly. So you can see here, Oi accepted an invitation to present Murakami with the award. The contrast in the sentence actually, I think, comes between this sentence, which is saying that Oi is a total critic, and then this says, Oi accepted an invitation to present the guy with a big award. Right? Do you see the contrast between those 2 statements? That's, to me, where the biggest contrast in the sentence is. If I look at this piece of the sentence, Oi, when speaking to the press, slowly began to acknowledge Murakami's talent and legacy after the award ceremony. This is a continuation of the idea that he accepted an invitation to present the award and had a change of heart, right? Like this is continuing that idea. There's no contrast between those 2 sentences. Or this piece of this sentence, if it's a single sentence, which some of the options are single sentences, and this clause down here, there's no contrast really between those. It's like, he accepted this and he slowly began to acknowledge it. That's all continuation. So here's the trick again. What's the rule? The rule is however can come at the end of a phrase and function as if it were at the beginning. And where do I actually want the contrast? I actually want the contrast right here. He was one of his harshest critics. However, when Murakami's Wind-Up Bird Chronicle was awarded the Yomiuri Literary Prize, Oi accepted an invitation to present him with the award. Right? Everybody said he's his greatest critics, but when he was invited to give an award to the guy, he was like, sure. Contrast, right? So this is actually where I would want the transition. Well, if you can't get it there, guess what? You can put it at the end, but here's the rule. If you put it at the end, you put it after a comma at the end. So what that does, that nixes B, which again was the conventional wisdom. How do you shove together 2 clauses with a however? You put semicolon, however, comma. Right? But you have to, on the SAT, think about what the however means and where the contrast lies. If the contrast lies between the first sentence or clause and the second sentence or clause, then if the however comes at the end of the second clause, it should have a comma in front of it. And that actually denotes contrast between this up here, our first sentence or clause, and this down here, our second sentence or clause. Again, however, can come at the end of a phrase and function as if it were at the beginning. Right here, I have another sentence that does this. Exoticism was often criticized for its superficial stereotypical depictions of non-Western cultures, however. That means there is a contrast between the sentence and whatever came before it. Okay. When we put however at the end of a sentence, at the end of a clause, comma, however, period, or semicolon or whatever, it creates contrast not between here and here, not right where the however is, but rather between the previous sentence or clause and that second sentence or clause, okay? Hopefully this makes sense to you. I know it's a little bit confusing. So how do we find the right answer? Well, we know it's not B because that creates contrast between the fact that he's presenting at the award ceremony and then he slowly begins to acknowledge Murakami's talent and legacy, right? So that doesn't work. So then we have A, when Murakami's The Wind Up Bird Chronicle was awarded this prize, Oe accepted an invitation to present Murakami with the award, however. New sentence. After the award ceremony, when speaking to the press, he slowly began to acknowledge Murakami's talent and legacy. That's what we want. So A is going to be correct. That's going to be correct. B is going to be incorrect. Award, comma, however, comma. This creates a run-on because after the award ceremony, Oe, when speaking to the press, slowly began. So our subject is Oe, began to acknowledge that. So this is subject verb, right? So that's a complete clause. C would be a run-on. And D would also be a run-on, however, after. There's no punctuation between these two, and then this just kind of runs on. There's no conjunction between these two clauses. And however is not a conjunction. It is, sometimes I call it a conjunction imposter. It is an adverb. So it cannot glue two independent clauses together. But this delineating between B and A is really the thing that people screw up. If you want to learn more about it, this is from my online course, and I get really into this. And you can freeze frame this or take a picture of it and read through this example and how this is correct and maybe wrap your brain around this idea that however can create contrast between a first sentence and or clause and a second sentence or clause, so long as it's preceded by a comma at the end of the second clause. However can come at the end of a phrase and function as if it were at the beginning. Or phrase or sentence, however you want to say it. Command of evidence textual questions. So this is the second type of questions that people are missing like crazy. Spoiler alert, this is from the database of College Board questions. As of right now, when I'm filming this, this is not in Blue Book tests 1 through 4, but who knows, maybe the College Board will suck it up and use it in another. I can't guarantee that it won't show up in one, so there was a bit of a spoiler alert, but this type of question a lot of people miss, and the reason they miss it is they have trouble delineating between which answer choice requires more inference than another. I'll do this really quickly with you guys. Icebergs generally appear to be mostly white or blue depending on how ice reflects sunlight. Ice with air bubbles trapped in it looks white because much of the light reflects off the bubbles. Ice without air bubbles usually looks blue because the light travels deep into the ice and only a little of it is reflected. So there's some rules why ice is white looking, why ice is blue looking. However, some icebergs in the sea around Antarctica appear to be green. One team of scientists hypothesized that this phenomenon is the result of yellow-tinted dissolved organic carbon in Antarctic waters mixing with blue ice to produce green, right? Which finding would most directly weaken the team's hypothesis. So really important here, one thing, always make sure you know if it's weaken or support. And then we're looking for what's going to weaken the idea that the reason that this is green is there's this yellow-tinted organic carbon that's dissolved and that mixes with the blue, right? White ice doesn't change color when mixed with dissolved organic carbon due to air bubbles in the ice. This actually would support this idea that it's blue mixed with yellow and might account for why we don't have any yellow ice. But white ice isn't what they're saying is mixing. They're saying blue ice mixes with it, so it has kind of nothing to do with the hypothesis. It's a little off. B, dissolved organic carbon has a stronger yellow carbon color in Antarctic waters than it does in other places. Other places are irrelevant. That's not part of the argument. Blue icebergs and green icebergs are rarely found near each other. Now, this one, from an inference standpoint, it would make sense that if this yellow-tinted dissolved organic carbon was mixing in some places, you might have it mixing in, and then it might not be over here, and so the green and the blue might be next to each other. But I'm doing something right now. I'm inferring some, right? So this is better than A and B, but I have to infer, and I don't like to infer. And if I do infer, I want to infer as little as possible. D, blue icebergs and green icebergs contain similarly small traces of dissolved organic carbon. Now, here's the problem. If they have the similar amount of dissolved organic carbon, how would this yellow-tinted dissolved organic carbon account for the green iceberg if it's also in the blue iceberg? Shouldn't those blue icebergs be green too then? right? Oops. And so that makes a little bit more clear sense. And I don't have to infer like I did up here, where it's like, oh, well, if this yellow stuff was making the green icebergs green, there would probably be some blue ones next door that maybe didn't get affected by that, right? I have to tell a story that's not 100% here, whereas this idea that they're similar is different from the idea here that the blue and the green are different. If we have this dissolved organic carbon, oh, it's going to turn green. That can't be the cause of the green if blue icebergs have it too. Capiche? Cool. So these command of evidence textual questions, again, not inferring too much. I have more examples on our online course. We have some original questions there if you want more practice. We also have a free trial if you want to go check that out. I'm going to move on to my third question type, which is also a boundaries question. And I call this the ing comma rule. Okay, third question type. This is a question from our online course. So spoiler alert, this is on our online course, but it's in our practice sets. It's not in our practice tests. So if you're on our online course, maybe you've seen it. Nigerian writer Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie's own upbringing, shaped by a limited literary landscape, inspired her to create diverse narratives and establish organizations such as the Farafina Trust. The Farafina Trust has launched workshops, publishing opportunities, and mentorship programs, empowering young individuals to develop their reading and writing abilities. The program fosters a vibrant literary community. So that sounds great. A lot of people like to choose D, because when I read D, it sounds really great when I read it from the front. The Farafina Trust has launched workshops, publishing opportunities, and mentorship programs empowering young individuals to develop their reading and writing abilities. But this creates some problems, this ing thing, because if I say this, this becomes essentially a fragment, or a run-on rather. The program fosters a vibrant literary community just gets tacked on with a comma, and that's a comma splice error. So that doesn't work. And then I want to talk about ings and commas. So if there is no comma here, then the mentorship programs are what is empowering the young individuals to develop their reading and writing abilities. But I actually think the workshops are doing that too, as are the publishing opportunities, right? And the fact that they launched all these things. So if I were to choose between A and D, I probably would choose A, because I think the idea is that all three of these things are empowering them, right? But this is still wrong, because then it would be a run-on. So that's kind of the ing comma rule, is the idea that when, so quick side note about ings, when I have kind of these ing words, that if I put comma ing, this refers to the subject of the sentence. So that means that the empowering is something that's done by launching this. They have launched by launching this. They are empowering people, right? Doing the action. When we have no comma, then ing word, then the ing word is done by what touches it. So the general rule of thumb is, again, if I don't have a comma between mentorship and empowering, or programs and empowering, sorry. If I don't have a comma between programs and empowering, the programs are what's doing the empowering, but I actually think it's the workshops, the opportunities, and the programs. So that's just another good rule to know. I know there's like so many little rules in here, and that's not even what does it, because it's the run-on. So the trick here is that the answer is actually B, because this empowering, the program is actually doing the empowering. So mentorship programs stop. Empowering young individuals to develop their reading and writing abilities, the program. So the program is doing the empowering. So with ing words, you always have to figure out who or what is doing the action. When we have an ing phrase at the beginning of a sentence, whoever or whatever is doing the action is what's after the comma. And we call that like a modifiers rule. Definitely cover that in my online course. When we have it touching something, the thing touching it is what's doing that ing word. And when I have a comma, the thing doing that is the subject of the sentence plus the verb. And by doing this verb, it's doing this action. So hopefully that can help you kind of clarify what that ing refers to. And then the other thing too is make sure you always read to the end, because just because something sounds wonderful, kind of if you stop before you finish, you might hit a train wreck or a run-on if you keep going. So there you go. Lots of fun facts about ing words. Hopefully you learned something in there. If you like this video or you want to learn more, be sure to subscribe to our online digital SAT course. You can find that at SupertutorTV.com. We also have private tutors who use our online resources and can create a custom study plan for you. SupertutorTV.com/tutoring. And we do quite a bit of college consulting and essay coaching. You can also find that at SupertutorTV.com/tutoring. Thanks for watching, guys. Till next time.